as I do. I think she's an amazing character. I actually think Troy was better developed than Crusher, actually, Dr. Crusher. And Beverly's great as well. But Troy was more alien and weird in the first season. I don't know how many times I've said that. There was that Betazoid thing going on with her, and she had her hair all weird, and and then as the seasons went on, she became, Marina Sirtis has made the comment that Troy became more like her, later on. And people would say that your character's too dry and boring, but we really love you. Could you make the character more like you? And of course that was fine, but yeah, Troy became more human. You don't really think of Troy as half Betazoid. When you watch the first season, you do. You see her interpreting people and being cool, and early season 1 TNG vibes, and her doing stuff and sitting on the bridge and reading people's minds and stuff. One thing that's interesting about her character, though, and I'm probably talking too much about Troy here. I need to move on from Troy, but hard not to. But it's interesting to me how she can't read people's minds as far as thoughts. What she can receive is feelings. How the feeling of something inherent and how a being is processing things. She doesn't get information. She just gets the emotional, thing behind all that. That's going on inside somebody, and that to me is very good, very cool. So anyway, let's move on. So Kaczynski, Argyle, Riker, and the Traveler enter engineering to do whatever it is that they do, which is test the engines and go on about with their procedure. And what's kind of funny, Kaczynski gets mad at Wes just for being there. He's sort of like, "What's the boy doing there?" And it's a theme throughout the episode and many episodes of TNG is Wesley Crusher gets so much crud from people. It's just poor kid, But anyway, he is a genius, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to play you a little bit of Kaczynski's social posturing and gabby arrogance.
Before you begin, there are some questions. First, tell us how you arrived...
In order to save myself time, let me ask those questions for you. You received the information which Starfleet provided. You fed it into your computer as precisely as humanly possible. Then you did a controlled test. And then, to your astonishment, nothing happened. So, you said, "What's going on? This doesn't work. Kaczynski's a fraud." You see, I have had this conversation on other Starfleet vessels before. They didn't understand it. Why should you?
Surely you're not saying it's unexplainable.
I am saying I'm not a teacher, nor do I wish to become one. I have neither the inclination nor the time.
So Kaczynski seems kind of like a nut, just slightly hard to work with. But yeah, it's very interesting to see, he's full of it, obviously, and what happens later in the episode definitely makes all that interesting as far as trying to, who the guy really is. So anyway, Wesley Crusher is a genius. He sort of meets up with the Traveler, and they do some configurations around with the different warp fields and stuff, and the Traveler can sort of notice, and the Traveler is so cool, man, in this first episode. And he sort of can see that there's something going on with Wes, that there's something special to the kid. So let's play as they sort of mess around with the warp configurations.
Something troubles you with the way this is configured? How about it now?
Yes, but shouldn't these be connected? Here and here.
Now will it do what Kaczynski says it will?
It has a chance. It might work better this way. Yes.
I really like what's going on between Wesley and the Traveler in this episode. It's just very, very cool, their friendship. And, the thing you've heard me talk about how much I've hated Journey's End, which I think is what ruined Wesley Crusher's character, and which involved the Traveler in that episode of Journey's End. And after seeing this one, I really, really want to watch Journey's End and see how things, worked out with that a little bit more, because it's been a while since I've seen that. I don't really want to return to it at this point, but it'll definitely be interesting, because this episode, you think of the episodes that really propelled Wesley Crusher's character forward, this is one of them. Most definitely. It's where he gets promoted for the first time, as we'll see in the end. By the way, this is a spoiler-heavy show. The One-Man Trekker, as we go through these episodes, is really intended for people who've seen these episodes before, and diehard Trekkies as we explore these and revisit them again. But anyway, if you're new to Star Trek, that's cool too, but just know that I'm spoiling things here for you. But yeah, definitely one of the best episodes with dealing with Wesley Crusher's character, and we'll get into that further in the episode.
Is this merely mechanics, or is it nature that we deal with in all of this? And what else than nature are the elementals of space and time? You are trained in the system. You go in a straight line, competent, yes, perhaps even innovative in a minimalist sort of way. But what I do here is not the end of the process. It is the beginning.
It's interesting to see how the Traveler is soft-spoken and keeps to himself, and he has such a knowledge and wisdom about things, which is very much so a contrast to his partner's boastfulness and loudness, and you know, it's the loud guy says he's smart, and the quiet guy sort of does his thing, and nobody really notices him when he's, you know, the genius of the two.
So, what do I do? Go back to the Fearless, which I left with a more efficient warp drive system than I found? Or do you cast off your ignorance and allow me to continue?
Can anything he's proposing damage our system?
How could it? It's meaningless.
Then we should let him try it.
What do you mean, let him try it? Don't talk about me in the third person as if I'm not standing right here.
Yes, we might as well let him try.
Oh, yes, we might as well let him try it. You are too generous. Boy!
Kaczynski's going to make adjustments for propulsion between warp 1.5 and warp 4 as they begin the experiment.
A forward set in warp 1.5.
Warp 1.5, sir.
Engage.
So Wesley is the only one watching the Traveler, because everybody else is watching Kaczynski to see what makes this guy so hot, you know, and looking at his specs earlier, they're like, well, what's up with this guy? So their speed is increased quite a bit. If you look at the warp coil, it's going absolutely berserk, which is so cool. And we've got these great sound effects, and nobody who's with Kaczynski watching him, which is Argyle and Riker, I guess, they don't really notice that Kaczynski, you know, looks to the Traveler all of a sudden, who is the one making these incredible advances in speed, and he goes, "What are you doing?" You know. So it's interesting to me that nobody noticed that. So then the Enterprise does something which is very infamous, and that's accelerate at warp 10. But in this case, they're past warp 10.
Captain, we're passing warp 10.
Oh, this was something that really was neat about seeing this in the theater. You know, you had, just to further respond to Alan McCarthy's tweet about the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray, that was one thing that was exclusive to the theater, was Michael and Denise Okuda talking about what the selections they made for the theater, specifically in the theater, you know. And they mentioned about how they really wanted to, this would be a great theatrical thing, with the special effects and the Enterprise passing through all the light stuff and the planets, and this episode was incredible. It's just on a TV from 1987 and the 80s, you know, this kind of work that was put into it. It's just something really to admire. It's art, is what it is. It's more than a TV show, and to see it restored up on the big screen really did it justice for the first time, without interlaced frames.
Position.
Calculating it, sir. Data, what do you read over there?
Malfunction. I trust.
Data is even shocked at where they are as they try to sort of figure out where they are, and it's something that was a very human element of what Data does here. Is he goes, it's a malfunction, I trust, as far as where they are in the location of the universe, which was very interesting to me that Data responded in that way. You would typically think, you know, a computer doesn't talk like that. It would go, everything on the computer here says we are where we are, so that's where we are, unless there is a malfunction. But Data uses the word trust, a malfunction I trust. A very, very human of Data there. Now this is what is so awesome, folks. The Enterprise has passed 2 galaxies, and this is the best part. They're in the M33 galaxy. And what I like about how they mentioned that is it involved